what's good, Salvi fam and Salvi sympathizers during this wonderful Gold Cup? I'm Andres Rico, and I'm here with Hugo Alvarado for yet another episode of the Corner Blue, episode 31. Can you believe it? In any case, we'll be breaking down the match that had us all hyped up last week, the El Salvador-Mexico match, and we're going to look forward to what this weekend will bring us with the quarterfinals coming up against Qatar and breaking down some news that's come up within like the last week. But before that, something huge has happened. We finally have found a sponsor. So before we break all that down, here's a word from our first sponsor. So check this out, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to let you guys know that this episode of Corner Blue is brought to you by Metroplex Premier League. It's a league based out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area for those players 17 and up that are looking for a pathway to something beyond just becoming Sunday League warriors. If you're 17 and up and you're looking to improve your game and get that chance of seeing your skills seen by scouts and maybe making that transition, you should definitely check out and sign up for the Metroplex Premier League. Hugo, can you tell us a little bit more about this league?
Yes, so Metroplex Premier League is a regional Dallas DFW area with the ambition to create a pathway from recreational academy leagues to pro amateur leagues with an affordable league entry. MPL is targeting members of local soccer recreational leagues that want to compete at a higher level, not just within a recreational atmosphere.
The MPL mission is to educate and support local soccer clubs that want to grow their clubs within a pro amateur environment. And the MPL vision is to connect their league through promotion relegation with the National League for clubs to earn their way up the pyramid of U.S. soccer while providing players with exposure to pro clubs or college scouts. So this is definitely something to check out if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you want to continue with your dream of playing soccer, but you don't want to be relegated to just Sunday League. Heads up, July 31st is the deadline for club applications, and the age group, as we mentioned, is 17 and up. For more information, you can check out mplsoccer.com. You can also find them on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Again, that's mplsoccer.com. Registration is due July 31st. So check that out if you want an opportunity to keep that dream going and do what we all love, and that is playing soccer. And shout out to Angel Portillo for reaching out with the interest for sponsoring this episode. I've been in contact with him since the show started. He's a very faithful and loyal listener. So thanks again for the interest in reaching out. Little by little, we build this up, and there's nothing more exciting to know that, you know, people trust us to have a sponsor. So thank you once again. Hugo, moving along, any sensations from the Mexico El Salvador match that you'd like to share with us?
Well, very, very pleased. And thank you to our sponsor, Metroplex Premier League, for being our first sponsor. And thank you. This is hopefully the beginning of big things for the Corner Blue. Going back to the game, first of all, as I had said in our last episode, for me, it was important to see how the team would play against Mexico. And I believe I either told you this in the episode or off the record, but I told you, Andres, the team is not going to play defensive. This team does not know how to play defensively. Our defensive style is attacking and holding the ball and maintaining possession, and that's what I saw. Although the first half, Mexico really pressured us up high, and we struggled to counteract that high pressure that Mexico had on us. I think on the second half, we really turned it around, and the coin flip. I mean, El Salvador looked like we were the top team. We were the best team in the second half. And a lot of that has to do with how the coaching staff adjusted the team, whether with the strategy and also with the subs to changed the game, and we eventually flipped the game completely. Unfortunately, we didn't score. But how many times have you seen a Mexican team asking for the time? Asking for time for the ref to end the game. The only other reference I have to that is Osvaldo Sanchez telling Honduras to stop in that qualifier game. But I think the national team, for me, it's not that we have reached a certain level yet, but for me personally, it was a turning point. I don't want to say the culmination or graduation for some of our players, but I think it was a huge step for some of our players in that game that really stepped up to the next level. And if there were any doubts about certain players and whether they had the capacity to be in that national team, I think they show that they have what it takes and that they can step it up in a big stage and play and trust in their skills without being afraid of who's in front of them. So for me, the most important part was seeing our national team play against Mexico in the same way that we have been playing against what people call the little islands. And to me, that's a huge achievement.
You mentioned it, just being able to play Mexico with the expectation, with the eyes on them. I read earlier this week that this was the highest rated match on TV in the U.S. for Mexico since like 2011. And that says everything. I mean, it was a culmination of a week of Salvadorans and Mexicans bantering, the typical banter that goes on off the pitch, on social media, in the workplace, and families and whatnot. But it was awesome, the vibe that you saw at the stadium, where the stadium seemed to be mostly Salvadoran, but, as in typical U.S. fashion, the fans are mixed throughout. So people hopefully were on their best behavior. It didn't seem like there were any fights going on, or at least that's not what they showed during the match. So it was just a festive mood. And I think the cherry on top was seeing the national team rise to the occasion. You mentioned the coaching staff and how they prep for this match, and you did see a slightly more conservative approach the first half. I wouldn't call it defensive, but they played with the 4-4-1-1 to start off, putting Marvin right under Joaquin Rivas to kind of feed him or be another target, depending on the runs that they were making. But another thing I've noticed is how Gerson Perez has mentioned it on his social media, that they seem to not believe that there's just one scheme to use or format to use through the match, that it's something that changes and is very fluid depending on the situation. And so you would see it more from like a 4-4-1-1 to sometimes a 4-4-2, right? Or sometimes we would play three in the back, and then one of the fullbacks would push up a little bit to flood that midfield. But what I did notice that they struggled with in the first half was, even though the formation changed a little bit, we were getting beat on that right flank where Roldan and Josh Perez were playing. I think mostly because Josh Perez's defensive role wasn't as established, or it wasn't up to him to come back and cover the player playing on that wing. Because I did notice that Roldan wasn't pushing up too far. It seemed like his role, at least in the first half, was, hey, we don't need you doing those overlapping runs because we need the back covered. So that was like the most conservative aspect, or the defensive aspect, that I saw. And ironically, the goal came on the left side. I don't know if it was the team getting caught flat-footed on the throw-in, but it was unfortunate that, yes, on a throw-in, and it leads to a goal with the deflection. But in the second half, you saw that sub being done for Marvin, who wasn't having his best of matches, in part because he wasn't playing in his usual position. He seemed kind of isolated from the midfield, so it was hard to generate any touches with the midfield because he was kind of floating around in the top third of the pitch. But once you had Amando Moreno come in, he was more involved in the attack. There were more touches and more mobility moving forward. So that was definitely seen. And then on top of that, you saw Alex Roldan get that green light and start with those overlapping runs on the right flank, which led to at least 2 or 3 close opportunities throughout the match. The biggest sensation that I walk away from is, like you said, it's not like they graduated. It's not like they won anything here. They still had to take the L. We still have a lot of ways to go. But we saw an inverted Selecta match where the first half, they had some jitters. Also, they're trying out a new system. Things didn't necessarily gel as they would have wanted. Second half, adjustments were made, and they rose to the occasion. They took command of the ball. They took the shots on goal. Unfortunately, Larin's free kick went off the bar. Warren Martinez, on that last moment that he could have controlled it, it actually bounces off of his support foot. So he has to make that kind of awkward volley, and it goes wide. I think if he would have been able to control it perfectly, he would have had an easier shot on goal. But a great sensation seeing him rise to the occasion. After all the bantering and all the hype and whatnot, it would have been very deflating, especially for the fans. I know for the fans for a fact that if it wouldn't have played the way it did and it would have been a debacle, it would have been kind of a hindrance. It could have, taken away from the moment where fans feel that they can really support this team, really get behind this team. But with the 1-0, everyone seemed pretty satisfied with the result, considering that we were so close to scoring. And now we got to move on to the quarterfinal.
More than the team being a little bit conservative on the first half, again, I just think that Mexico really made us play that way. We struggle to have the ball. This is a team that continues to attempt to play from the back line in a very organized manner. And I give credits to the team and the coaching staff for continuing to do that, because eventually we are going to perfect that, and that's going to be a big factor for our style of play, to play from the back in an organized way, and that takes time and it takes work. And the team tried to do that in Mexico, press really high. They were pressuring us, and we struggle. And adjustments were made in the second half that paid off and gave us that opportunity for Alex Roldan to go up a little more and attack. And we got to see more what Roldan can do in that position. I think that's going to be a wonderful problem for Hugo Perez to have, because in a good way, I want to say we didn't miss Tamacas, and in no way am I saying Tamacas should be benched. Not at all. I think there's going to be a very tough one, and a very good problem for Hugo Perez to have, because Tamacas has been doing really well in that position, and here we have Alex Roldan, who basically stepped up to the plate and made us not really miss Tamacas in that position. So it'll be interesting to see if, Tamacas starts and Roldan waits, or if, Roldan can play in many positions. So I wouldn't even be surprised if Roldan plays instead of Orellana in the holding mid position. I don't know. I don't have any inside information. It's just my opinion. He's a player that can be used in many positions, and that's a good thing for the national team. Gonzalez, he hadn't really been
challenged up until this point.
He hadn't been challenged up until this game, and he was this time, and he passed. He passed with an A+, and that's great. You always want a goalkeeper who's ready for that to do his job, and he did really well. He did a really, really amazing job, and speaks good of him. And he's been putting in the work in the trainings to be the starting goalkeeper. I like what I saw from Josh. I thought that even though what we saw this time, at least in the first half, was slightly different than what we're used to seeing, where he's more of an attacking player, taking on players one-on-one. And this time, what I liked is that during those times the Mexico was really pressuring us, he came down, and when he had the ball, he held that ball. He was able to hold that ball and kind of give it a little bit of a pause that the team needed to kind of reorganize. And he was able to give us an exit from the back, something that I'm not used to seeing. So I really like seeing that confidence that he had with the ball. He's not a big guy, but he did a really good job at holding the ball under pressure and being able to allow our other players to position themselves in such a way that we could play from the back line. And in the second half, we saw a lot more of his offensive game. So for me, it was, I would say, my personal opinion, one of the most solid games I've seen from him. Obviously, some may say, well, but he didn't really attack much. But I'm looking at it from as a whole. I thought he did a really good job in that sense. Mostly he had to defend in the first half, and I thought he did a good job. And then Armando Moreno, I think Armando Moreno had his chance. This was the game for Armando Moreno to show us what he could do. And I also think that he's another player, the pass with an A. He really he changed the game in many ways. And I like seeing that he was very atrevido. We saw that experience that he has. Now he's playing in the USL, but he has played in Mexico. He has played in MLS. He's in his mid-20s, and I think he did a really good job. I mean, he made a one tunelito where he was very, very quick, to kind of do that play. He got a foul. There were plays where he didn't have anyone else to pass the ball to, and he was able to take on 2 to 3 players and hold that ball and pull the mark and pull players to open spaces. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot more minutes against Qatar from Armando Moreno, because I think he showed that he can be a very important player. And again, another big problem, another good problem to have, because there's a substitute for Monterrosa when needed. I am not I saw Monterrosa getting a lot of criticism, and players are going to have bad games, and that doesn't mean they're bad players. Monterrosa has done really good work. He's had amazing games with the national team. He happened to not be on his best night against Mexico, unfortunately, but that doesn't mean he's not a good player. But it's good news to have a player like Armando Moreno who can easily step into that position and play. And I like that Joaquin Rivas did a really good job as a 9. He ran. I mean, physically, Joaquin Rivas is doing really well. He ran all 90 minutes, pressuring up high. So it was. I think that the players should be proud for what they did. Of course, we all want to win, and it's not that we're conformistas or anything like that. But it's been a long time since we've seen a team play Mexico sin complejos. Where we came out and we played to win. And Mexico happened to score that goal, and we didn't score the ones we had. But we generated opportunities. And eventually, if we continue generating opportunities, especially against teams like Mexico, the goals are going to come.
For sure. I think the main thing to walk away is the experience. These players now know what this team is capable of against a marquee team like Mexico. They know what it looks like when things aren't necessarily gelling, but how to hold down the fort, because I think considering everything, Mexico did not have its finest day, but with the amount of pressure that they were putting up on top, it was very important that the first half end just 1-0. It was crucial. Like you said with Marin, I think, like I mentioned, I think in part it's just he wasn't playing his normal position the first half, so I think that might have influenced things a little bit, especially when it turned into 5 players in the mid. Our attack was kind of lacking, because even though we filled up the mid, then we didn't have too many. If we recover the ball, then we didn't have any too wide options. I really liked that spark in the second half, where basically we took possession back in the match, got those shots on goal. Mexico was nervous, like you said. It seemed like they were hoping the whistle would be blown so they could end the match. And I think, if anything, this is a team you want to get behind because of the pace that they were able to withhold throughout the whole match, how they adjusted, and it's not like things fell apart. Like you said, they didn't play with any complejos or any fear. They know that they're capable of what they're capable of, and they're learning the peak, where they're going to peak in terms of their ability, or how the team's performance is going to improve. And that leaves us talking about what's coming up next, which is the quarterfinal versus Qatar. Qatar won the Asia Cup in 2019. They just recently played the friendly match in Croatia, which Qatar won 1-0 despite having a red card. And on top of that, it seems that despite that their players are mostly, they're all in the domestic league, Qatar does have more infrastructure. It also has brought in coaches from abroad, especially one person that stands out is Xavi, who's a coach at El Sal, or was a coach at El Sal. I'm not sure if he's still there. And the Qatar national team depends on teams like El Sal. Like, there's many, many players from that team on the national team. I'm not going to lie, I haven't necessarily seen them in action, but it does appear that style, or that influence of possession, touches, and the quick transitions is something that Qatar uses. So I'm expecting, a good run for their money in terms of what La Selecta is going to have to handle. I did notice they tied 3-3 with Panama, so that's an interesting result that they got. And I'm excited just to see if we can make it to that fifth match, which would be historic for El Salvador and its history in the Gold Cup, which hasn't happened before. But I think, again, this is just another example of a match that means something, not too much on the line, that tests La Selecta in another way, okay? It's not Mexico. It's not necessarily, for pride, or we're dealing with the big dog here. Right now, it's, okay, can we unlock an achievement? Can we unlock something that has never done before? How far, how deep can we go into this tournament? It being loyal to our style and our strategy that's being set forth by the coaching staff. So I'm excited to see what comes out of this. I'm realistic. I think El Salvador, considering its recent upgrade, can give Qatar a run for its money. I don't know what you think about that, Hugo.
Qatar is not an easy team. Personally, I think that Qatar is one of the best teams in the Gold Cup. It's a team that has a lot of fundamentals. They worked together for a long time, I think 5 years under the same coach with very similar players. They're a team that knows what they play for, how they want to play, and they know each other really well. They don't carry the historic weight that Mexico does, or that Honduras does, or that Costa Rica does. But personally, I think that we are going to have a very tough match. For me, if not the top team in the Gold Cup, I would say in the top 3 teams in the Gold Cup. And what I like about playing Qatar is that because they don't hold that weight, that was more like a historic weight. I think that they're going to allow us to play more. I think that both teams are going to play very, very offensive styles because that's how they play. There's going to be spaces. I think there's going to be a lot of spaces for goals, and I think it's going to come down to scoring those opportunities that we're going to create. I think that we're going to have opportunities to score, and Qatar is going to have opportunities as well, I think, or try to create opportunities. They are a team that likes to play, and therefore they leave spaces open that if we can take advantage of those opportunities, if we take advantage of the opportunities that we have, I think that we have a good opportunity to reach that fifth game and make history in the Gold Cup. I wouldn't be surprised if we do, but I'm also not saying that they're going to be an easy team, and I wouldn't be surprised if this game has many goals, multiple goals from both teams. Again, because we recently played a game, we kind of know each other, and both Qatar and El Salvador are teams that like to propose an offensive style. Maybe we are a little bit more compact given the biotype of our players. Qatar can be a little bit more of a wider team, more long passes, not long in the air, but probably not as compact as we are. And they have players that are fast, players that are very technical. And I just think it's gonna be a beautiful match where, at least in my perception, when there was we were reading on social media people saying, "Who do you prefer? Do you prefer Honduras or do you prefer Qatar?" And I think I prefer Qatar because I think, like I just said, they are going to allow us to play our game more, and there's less of a history against them. Against Honduras, I think that we know each other. We're similar in some ways. Obviously, Honduras is a little bit more of a physical team, but those games can get pretty rough against teams like Honduras. And there's the whole history that we have between the two countries, and I feel that there are extra factors that go beyond the game of football and against a rival like that, and we don't have that against Qatar. We're different styles, but yet similar in the sense that we like to play good football, and spaces are going to be created by both teams, and I think it's going to come down to taking advantage of the opportunities that we have.
What you said was key, where El Salvador is used to playing Honduras. Just the fact that they get to play Qatar, albeit it's the second time in like a month, it does represent a chance to experiment what it is playing with a team that's not from your region, which is something that isn't common for La Selecta at this point. If we're lucky, sometimes we'll get a South American rival here and there every couple of years. Fortunately, we got that match versus Japan about 2 years ago before COVID, and that was a great experience as well. Unfortunately, the tactics back then were a little bit different, so the players aren't able to exploit their talents as much as we would have wanted to see. But yes, Qatar represents playing an Asian team, a team from very far away, a different style, and seeing how we measure up to that. We know what we have to do in terms of the region. This Gold Cup has presented that opportunity for this team to see where do we line up or add up versus the other teams of the region, and we've gotten their attention. But this is even better than just some friendly match in Croatia. You have a chance to be with your fans, at least the Salvadoran fans that are going to show up in numbers in Glendale, in Arizona, and just that feeling of competing with a team not from your region, something foreign to you. that's stuff that we need as well. So I think it's just two birds with one stone: the chance to make history, and then a meaningful match against a team outside of your region. Because if anything, we've been too stuck playing just CONCACAF teams, whether it's in regional competitions, but more importantly in friendly matches. And I think this is just a good sparring in the sense that El Salvador needs. Because obviously, and it's my perspective. The result doesn't necessarily matter. What matters in this case for me is to see that the style's maintained, that they're able to hone down some of the mistakes that were made against Mexico, try out new pieces because Hugo Perez is going to be forced to not play with Narciso. We'll see if he puts Roldan in instead of him, or if he brings in Isaac Portillo, and hopefully get to that fifth match, which would represent another great test. But for now, it's looking like before September, we do have a new friendly match scheduled, and we're moving along here, versus Costa Rica, which will be a good test. But again, it's someone within the area. So I think we need to maximize the benefits of playing a contender of playing a team from another region to test out how does our style add up to someone outside of CONCACAF.
Yes, Andres, as you mentioned just a few days ago, the game against Costa Rica was made official, and it's going to be on August 21st, which is a Saturday here in Carson, right outside of LA. LAFC fans would probably appreciate that I'm not saying at the LA Galaxy home, but at the Carson. Nothing against the Galaxy. I grew up being a Galaxy fan, but yes, it's going to be at the Dignity Health.
I hope you didn't just cost us some followers right there.
It's going to be at the Dignity Health Sports Park, which is in Carson, the home of the Galaxy. And it's going to be a good match. I mean, we're going to be playing Costa Rica, one of the top teams in our Central American region. There's a reason why they go to almost every World Cup. So I am very pleased. And it's not a team that we play that much in friendlies. So although in a way they have been, they kind of reached plateau or even going on a decline, they haven't had like a big generational change. Mm-hmm. I mean, they still have guys like Celso Borges, playing the team, Brian Ruiz. I mean, really good players, but players that may not make it to the next World Cup in their best form. But Costa Rica is Costa Rica. It's an excellent match to have, and yeah, right before the qualifiers. I'm not sure if that's an official FIFA game. So we might have to play with a lot of our domestic players. I'm not sure, but I think it's a great match. And also, I'm glad to see that the federation is moving along to support this team. There seems to be a very nice momentum going. You know, Banco Cuscatlán just joined the sponsoring team or sponsors of the different national teams. That's important. We also get to see that the training gear has some sponsors in the back, which we're not going to mention because they're not sponsored of this show yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. But if you're interested, reach out to us. And now, you know, this game was announced. So that tells us that Hugo Carrillo and the Federation and Diego Enriquez are really, you know, doing their homework and doing their job and basically not really like staying there just like, okay, we're satisfied, we're doing a good Gold Cup and we just, you know, play a great game against Mexico, but they are actually building on that momentum that the national team has going. And I'm very, not only am I happy because there's a friendly game, but it's going to be in my near my hometown in LA. So, you know, I'm going to be there. Hopefully I get to see some some fans of the show. Andres might come down from Northern California. He might ride his bike here to LA, and he can go to that game. So yeah, it's going to be a great match against a great team.
No, and like you said, it's good planning considering that July is almost over. You'd have practically the whole month of no activity for the national team. And then it's still up in the air as to what's going to happen with the domestic league in El Salvador, considering that there's been changes to COVID protocol in the country. Also, it's been up in the air as to whether El Salvador was even going to be able to play in front of a crowd for its home games during the octagonal. Recently, there were reports that FIFA blocked El Salvador's request to play some home matches for the octagonal in the United States. FIFA hasn't officially made a statement that I've seen so far, but I know Stephen Goff reported on that earlier this week. So that's all up in the air. If you can't play in El Salvador, if the players aren't playing in the domestic league, it's perfect that something lands on the 21st, about 10 to 11 days before the match against the U.S. scheduled for September 2nd. So again, yeah, props to the FESFUT for at least getting an excuse to get some of the guys together to not just let this momentum kind of burn off as soon as the Gold Cup ends for the Selecta, which hopefully will be later than sooner. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are going to close out today's episode. We wanted to keep it somewhat short and sweet. This will probably be coming out later Friday evening. So hopefully people can listen to it Friday or before the match against Qatar at 4:30 Pacific time. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. It's Gold Cup time. And we do this because this kid chose us, right? Like, there's something about that almost masochism in terms of following Azul. I empathize with a lot of the Salvadoran fans that had to deal with banter from their Mexican counterparts at the workplace. Because I even heard it yesterday. I went to go play a pickup game and a player missed a shot from like really close range. I swear it wasn't me. And I heard someone say, parece partido del Salvador, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh man, Carita Portillo, you just opened a can of worms with that slide, with that pass, the assist. But in any case, the Mexico-El Salvador match is history. Can't wait to look forward to the next one in the octagonal. I know things will look somewhat different by then, but more than anything, I want to see La Selecta compact and ready to go by then. Maybe have a little more solutions on the 9. Granted, we liked Rivas, but I think if we had maybe a better target in the area and had some wings playing off of him, that things could go somewhat different offensively. But again, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for tuning in. Keep having fun with this tournament, and we'll get back to you guys as soon as the Qatar Salvador match is over to break down what went down in the match and what we can look forward to in the future, seeing how El Salvador levels up against the reigning Asian champion. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening, and continue with those follows, those likes, and subscribes. And we're going to keep this thing going. All right. Take it easy, guys.